stance is like, I would say, something that could like be chosen.
No, I mean a stance is just basically, the definition of subjective is that there's a subject, that has that certain view or subject that, believes a
Yeah, but I
certain
wouldn't say he has that view. It's that it's in his nature.
in
That's just
his
a
nature.
misunderstanding of
What
what
does
we
that mean to
mean.
be in his nature? How
Yeah,
that
God is
works?
identical to goodness, right? So it's not going to be like a freely like chosen stance.
So if I give my friend a gift, is that good?
Um, I mean, shit. What's the gift? You know what I
Or
mean?
if I donate to charity and feed some hungry children, is that good?
Um, yeah. I mean, I would say it reduces some kind of harm. I would say.
So would you say that act is God? How does that make sense? When you say God,
Wait.
how
That
does
doesn't
that?
make it. Wait. That does not follow. The act is God. Wait, I'm confused.
Yeah, because you said God is identical to goodness. That's literally what you just said. So if I
Yeah,
agree
so
with
like in the sense, yeah, no, so like, bro, that's just a misunderstanding of what I mean, right? Okay, yeah, so like when I'm saying this, right, that I would say that would be like a godly act. Sure, you are simply following in like what God would desire. Like I would say like that's something that God would align with what
but
is good,
you
and therefore
said
God
God,
aligns with what is good. So yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
but the issue is you said God is goodness, and you said it's in His nature. What does that mean for Him to be goodness? So in that case, you'd be saying He's an act. Like you're kind of going off of like semantics, and it's kind of I think you're confusing yourself. What do you mean by that?
Wait, I'm not confusing myself. I'm completely fine. I'm not like turning this into a religion debate, right? I want to stick on abortion, but
Okay, I mean,
yeah. So yeah, what do you mean? What do I mean by that?
I was
I
just
think
confused because you said God is goodness, and you said
yeah,
it's
it's like by stance, right? By like a stance dependent truth. A stance would imply that it can be chosen, right? But obviously, as we know, God's nature is going to be unchanging, right? So there's going to be no choice, right? It's just going to simply be that God is good by necessity. So I don't.
so you're basically defining Him to be good in His nature, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I
how
don't
do you
have a
know whether
problem with
something's
even. I don't
good?
even have a
You kind
problem
of
with
run into
saying.
speak
I
for a
don't. I
second.
don't even have a problem with saying that like moral absolutes would probably be a better term than like objective morality because I think we can play semantics on what we mean by objective all day long. Like I don't really care, right? So, but anyway, like we can debate religion another time happily. I see you debate God's existence all
I
the
mean,
time.
okay, we don't have to go down rabbit hole of, you thief for a dilemma as well as good and nature of God and all of that. I mean, we can stick to abortion, but I mean, again, I was just kind of got up on the fact that you said any woman who gets abortions should go to prison for 25 to life.
I mean, probably longer. Shit. I mean, I don't really know. I don't really know how I would like. Probably I'd change the justice system. I think people who kill defenseless children should never see the light of day, whether it's in
Okay,
the womb or out the
so
womb.
capital punishment for any woman who gets an abortion.
No, I don't believe in the death penalty.
Okay, well,
But just quickly, because I feel like I've asked you a lot of questions and I know you've asked me one or two, but just quickly, let me pose you a question. I want to see how you answer to this. Suppose we had conjoined twins who had the same uterus, and they got pregnant in this uterus. There was a baby, a fetus, and the woman, one of the twins, wants to have an abortion and kill the baby. And the other twin does not want to go through that procedure. They don't want the abortion procedure. They want the baby. Who should be? What conclusion should happen? Who should get the? Should the twin get the treatment for the abortion, or should the twin be able to keep the pregnancy? Which one would win?
um, so I'm assuming this would be before my 24 to 28 week mark of consciousness. So
Yeah,
I believe that,
yeah. Bodily autonomy. Yeah. One woman says, "I don't want the abortion procedure. No, I don't want that happening to my body without my consent." And the other woman says, "I don't want this baby in me without my consent." Who wins?
and you said they're conjoined twins.
Yep, same uterus.
I'm not. Let me think about that. I haven't. I mean, that's a very. I don't know how many cases in which that would be the case. I don't think I've ever heard of a case in which conjoined twins.
Could you tell me what law of logic it violates?
Um, no, I never said. I never said there's a law of logic in
Oh,
violation.
okay, then engage.
I've never heard of a scenario like that. So just give me a moment to think about it. So you said there's conjoined twins and they have the same uterus
Yep.
and they have a confliction, a point of contention in whether they should be able to, or whether they can want an abortion or not. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, so like if you hold bodily autonomy, right, which you're a pro-choice, a woman should be able to make the choice of like who she gives her resources to, what's going on in her body, what procedures happen to her body. If you say the woman should be able to get the abortion procedure, you are violating the rights of the other twin that doesn't want the procedure. If you say the woman should keep the pregnancy, therefore the other woman doesn't have a right to an abortion, therefore you're violating her bodily autonomy because she doesn't want the baby in her. Who wins?
Legally, I'm not sure that different states, perhaps, or in the case of the US, or different countries would have different jurisdictions on that. Is everything okay? Sorry, I just paused for a
No,
moment.
it's cool. I was just checking.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that more thoroughly. I'm actually not sure in that specific scenario. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure actually. I mean, I don't know what. I mean, obviously, you'd say that it's never okay, but I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
Well, it just kind of tests the whole, the woman should have a right to an abortion. The problem is, you would agree a woman has a right to what happens to her body, right? Like, she has a right to get this fetus out of her, but you also agree a woman has a right to not want an abortion procedure done to her body. She doesn't want that done inside of her. So who really, like, would win that? Like, it seems like a problem for the pro-choice side, not really me. I mean, I would say, obviously, the woman doesn't have a right to kill the fetus, therefore the woman who wants the pregnancy would be the one that would obviously win, because obviously I'm against abortion. But for you, I don't see how you'd resolve that. So you could think about that, and then maybe, I don't know, when you have an answer. I don't think there is an
I'll
answer.
think about it. I haven't heard of that point. I mean, probably because it's just never happens. And so if you bring up again the specific scenario, this very specific thing, and be like, well, what if this and this weird hypothetical? Then sure,
Well,
I
I mean,
guess.
it just shows the insane absurdities of pro-choice, right? Well, you mentioned consciousness.
It's just
Yeah,
unique,
yeah. Could you tell me what brain parts are necessary in order to have a conscious experience?
I mean, what brain parts? I guess obviously different parts of the brain are responsible for different things. I guess the whatever parts. I don't know about specific parts responsible for consciousness. I know there's different parts of the brain. For example, the cerebral cortex responsible for movement, the prefrontal cortex for hearing, and frontal cortex and temporal for understanding. But in terms of like, it's there's not like specific part that this is consciousness. It's like very much, intertwined. I don't know why you asked that though. What does that have to do with
Oh,
that?
because you care so much about consciousness, right? It makes sense you would know at least what's responsible for it. Right? It's like me saying, yeah, I care about this, but I have no idea what makes this happen. It just seems really stupid.
No, it's not really relevant. I mean, you don't necessarily need to know a specific part of the brain for to have an argument of whether their consciousness should be
Because,
protected.
like, in order for you to make the claim consciousness, because I disagree with you that consciousness begins that late, right? You can look at people like Trevor Waltrip who literally just have a brain stem. Okay, he had a brain stem. Okay, and it's like considered that guy was having a subjective experience. He did not have the hypothalamus. He does not have any of these, like, in terms of like science, right? We've typically understood certain brain parts to be necessary for consciousness, but this is changing constantly. Same thing with Jackson Buell, missing 80% of his brain.
I
However, his
agree.
parents.
With more education, we'll have more. But typically, what scientists agree upon is that it develops from 24 to 28 weeks. But regardless, whatever, if they do have the conscious experience caused by possible neurons firing in their brain in certain areas,
What happens if you find out in 10 years that they've had it since 12 weeks?
pardon?
What happens in 10 years if you find out that the scientists got it wrong and that in fact they've been conscious since, let's say, 12 weeks, and you've like justified the mass slaughter of like hundreds of millions of conscious children?
Well, in the hypothetical scenario, then again, it would just change. I mean, that's a very odd way of saying it. Yes, if we figure out if change changes, then yeah, certain things happen certain ways, and
But
there's
doesn't that
nothing we
run a
can
risk? Like, shouldn't you be pro-life as a precautionary?
No, not necessarily, not at all.
If a position could accidentally lead to like another Holocaust times 10, doesn't that mean that position's really risky to hold?
Not necessarily. And I could say that you're forcing women to unconsensually uh, force them to bring babies into terms when it could drastically affect their life. We know that women who have
I mean, in 10 years, let's find out I'm wrong. Wait, the difference is my position wouldn't change with time. Like, my position cannot change because my position doesn't depend on like certain like qualifiers for like a human. Like, you rely on certain features for a human to have, but we don't. Science tells us when these features come and like don't exist, that exist and don't exist. That will change over time, probably. Whereas my position, that can't really change. I'm just gonna say that deprivation to future consciousness is wrong. So let's say it does change, though. Let's say I'm wrong. Let's say I've justified taking away women's rights to kill the unborn. Don't get me wrong, that sucks. But if you're wrong, you've justified something worse than the Holocaust. I mean, shit. Listen. it would suck if I'm wrong, but I think anybody who like has and would agree with me, who has like a decent moral compass would agree. The conclusion that hundreds of millions of conscious babies have been killed by your position is worse than mine.
I mean, I don't believe that. Again, the research shows that women in socioeconomic, environments where they, were forced to bring babies to term, they tend to be more involved in crime. They tend to have bigger issues, especially with there's a severe medical and financial case in abortion. So, in your case, that forcing women to bring babies to term without their, consent and not allowing them legal abortions is actually causing a lot of harm already from what we know, because you seem to care so much about the life of the child, but as soon as they're born you're nowhere to be seen. So we can see that to indicate that
I mean, that's not true, right? Like pro-lifers do a lot more than the pro-choice side with pregnancy resource centers, right? They do a lot more than just killing the babies. They offer solutions rather than death, right? But ultimately, this is just like pragmatics. Like even if my position leads to dog shit like pragmatics, it's irrelevant to like I don't really debate pragmatics. I don't debate the conclusions of my position. I debate just like whose position is more intuitive. So far, you've told us that it's not immoral to have sex with unconscious babies and smash their brains in an hour before they're conscious, right?
Again, your intuition pumping again. Babies,
it's not intuition pumping.
Talking about beings which have not developed consciousness.
Yeah, you're talking about a newborn baby who's literally going to have this thing you care about in 1 hour. But because it's 60 minutes away, all of a sudden it's okay to kill them, right? I find it absurd that you care about something once it's there, but you don't care about the potential of that thing. I don't see any other situation in which we do that.
Let me give you another scenario. Let's say someone's never gonna, wake up again. A brain dead patient in a coma, which they'll never wake up from. Would you force them to stay alive on life support and not allow them to pull the plug?
No.
So wait, so you're saying that you would pull the plug on someone who's never gonna be in consciousness?
Yeah, because you're not depriving them of future consciousness.
But I thought you valued life, so you just admitted that you would unalive someone.
No, well, brain dead people are already dead. No, so I value a conjunct, right? I value a conjunct of human plus the potential for future consciousness, right? The brain dead person, when we end their life, well, they're already dead. When we take them off life support, we're not depriving them of any future conscious experience because they're never going to have it. The baby in the womb is likely going to be a conscious individual, and by killing them, you are committing deprivation to that human being. I think deprivation is like innately going to be harmful, right? Because I think deprivation is harmful. If the deprivation is of a positive thing, and I think consciousness is a positive thing. So yeah, brain dead people aren't analogous to unborn babies.
Okay, so just to clarify that you're believing that it's consciousness or, capacity for future consciousness, as well as, what else was it? Your conjunct?
Human plus the potential for future consciousness.
What do you
That's
mean by
what's gonna...
human? Can we